Alright, what's up to all the Borderlands 3 fans out there? In this video, I'm going to be going over an elemental themed build I call Sub-Zero Zane. And since Zane has so many skills dedicated to keeping foes nice and frosty, what will be a better elemental themed build than one based on Cryo? Hence the name, Sub-Zero Zane. This build incorporates all Cryo weapons, Cryo shield and artifact, and a bunch of Zane's Cryo skills. But before I go over some gameplay footage showing off the weapons, I'll go over the equipment and the skill tree to show how this build works. Alright, so starting off with the equipment. We've got the Frozen Heart shield with action skill start, trigger effects on shield break or fill. Now this shield has been in the game since its inception, but it's even better now with the Mantis cannon, allowing you to get that Cryo Nova every time you fire it off, which means you can instantly freeze crowds of enemies every few seconds. Next up is the Victory Rush Icebreaker. Now you can get whatever variant you want for the Icebreaker. I just feel that the Victory Rush pairs the best for it. You can also get it with whatever passive bonuses you want. So weapon damage, critical damage, weapon magazine size, action skill cooldown. You can get it with whatever you want. The main thing you're looking for with this thing is the cryo efficiency and the bonus damage against frozen targets. Now these two used in conjunction with the cryo mantis cannon means you're getting crazy cryo damage all of the time. You're getting the cryo novas from your shield, bonus damage against frozen targets, and bonus cryo efficiency from the artifact and from the mantis cannon. These three combined form the holy trinity of cryo damage for this build, with the Cryo Mantis giving you those ASS or ASC effects on command, and also pairing gracefully with the Icebreaker artifact. So one of the pressing questions is, although we're getting tons of high power cryo damage, how are we overpowering those beefy shields since shields resist cryo? That is where the Conductor class mod comes into play. So if you're using any of Zane's other action skills with long duration, you'll be getting that bonus shock damage. This mod will also give you points into borrowed time and good misfortune, allowing you to keep your action skills up much longer. Also notice I'm using ASE Cryo on my Whispering Ice Grenade to stay consistent with the Cryo theme. The grenade doesn't really matter. What you're really looking for is the 10 seconds of bonus cryo damage on action skill end. Alright, now let's go over the skill tree, starting with the green tree because it's got the most cryo skills for this cryo themed build. 5 points into brain freeze, very important. This will allow you to freeze enemies with critical hits. We got a point into distributed denial. This way, your barrier will be getting the cryo novas from the Frozen Heart shield as well as Zane. 4 points into best served cold, and I know that this isn't the best ability, but I wanted to pick up as many damaging cryo abilities as I could, since this is a cryo themed build, and it is a bit of a meme build. But you will notice that the cryo explosions from this ability, when paired with radiation explosions and the cryo explosions from the Frozen Heart shield, actually deal a fair bit of damage. So it's not 4 points totally wasted. And then 1 point into calm, cool, and collected. Moving over to the purple tree, 5 points into Headman's Hand, and 5 points into commitment. But what we're really looking for from this tree is the Cryo Mantis ability, Cold Shoulder. This will allow your Mantis Cannon to deal cryo damage and increase your cryo freeze rate. You'll notice that the Cryo Mantis, when paired with the Icebreaker, will deal massive damage whenever this thing connects. For the blue tree, 5 points into Violent Speed, 3 points into Violent Momentum, so you can move fast and get increased gun damage while you're moving. 1 point into Salvation, which is also very important, and 1 point into Seeing Red. Now you are missing out on a fair bit of damage by not going to the bottom of the blue tree here, but that's made up for a bit with the red tree. 3 points into Trick of the Light, which gives you 45% bonus damage against enemies that aren't targeting you. So against frozen enemies, you'll be able to pick up this bonus damage, which makes a huge deal and does make up a bit for not going to the bottom of the blue tree. Also very important here, 4 points into Borrowed Time, which will keep your action skill up, allowing you to get that bonus shock damage from the Conductor class mod. Those are the most important abilities for this build, and that will wrap up the skill tree. Now that I've shown how this build works, I'll show the best weapons I've found for Sub-Zero Zane. First and foremost is the Light Show. The Light Show is going to be your best friend especially against bigger targets with massive HP like the Kraken, because it hits so hard with so many pellets. I found this thing to deal consistent and high power damage against those large single targets, as you'll have less of a chance for the unique pellet spread of the light show to miss. I'm running Next 2 Magazine's Cryo as a primary damage dealer, but I'll switch it up to Next 2 Magazine's Corrosive depending on the situation, like against Frostbite Heavyweights, which is particularly where this build struggles. But with well-placed shots and alternate damage type, you should be able to power through. The Plague Bearer serves as the heavy damage dealer of the arsenal. I'm using the Plague Bearer with Next 2 Mag's Incendiary to deal with high health enemies, as shock damage from the Conductor class mod deals with shields, and the Cryo damage deals with armor. I whip this thing out to deal with the Frostbite Heavyweights when taking on the Maliwan Takedown. From the weapons I've tested with this build, this thing is the best I could find for that specific task, though it is still quite difficult to take them down, not gonna lie, as you can't really score critical hits on them with your Cryo damage, so you have to rely on secondary elemental damage. It also deals with hordes of enemies exceptionally well. But this is a Plague Bearer we're talking about here. We all know how well it does against mobs, which is why I try not to use it all the time, so it's not straight carrying this build. Another awesome weapon for high power Cryo damage is the Needle Gun. This is a ×2 variant with Next 2 Magazine's Cryo, and this thing shreds. The only downside is that the damage takes a few seconds to ramp up, but with this being a ×2 variant, and firing through Zane's barrier, it's really not that noticeable, especially once you start hitting a frozen enemy. This might actually be a little more damaging than the light show, but they are both really good overall with Next 2 Magazine's Cryo, so you've got options. And even with Next 2 Magazine's Cryo, this thing works well against shields when paired with the Conductor mod and the ramp up damage that this thing dishes out, so you should be fine there. The Redistributor works amazingly well with Sub-Zero Zane, allowing you to spread damage to multiple targets at once. I'm switching it up between Next 2 Magazine's Radiation and Next 2 Magazine's Shock to tear away shields and to get the freezes on those multiple enemies once their shields are gone. I'd use Shock against the Valkyries and Radiation against hordes of enemies when they crowd around me, like on the bridge. Then switch back to the Light Show or the Needle Gun against targets with high HP. The Redistributor pairs well with the Conductor class mod and with the Trick of the Light ability, but it isn't so great against single targets, which is why I would switch it up when necessary. And those are the 3 weapons I found to be the best use in particular for this build. The biggest challenge for this build is taking on the Maliwan Takedown, because it throws at you so many powerful enemies with high shields. This is true takedown mode, by the way. Sub-Zero Zane works efficiently here up to a certain point. It can deal with the hordes, the Kraken, the Valkyries, but it does struggle against Frostbite Heavyweights, as I mentioned earlier, and against Wotan. But while you can take down Wotan theoretically, do you really want to? This build is a bit of a meme. It'll take some patience to whittle down Wotan's HP, since Wotan resists Cryo damage. So it is possible, but that's not really what this build is for. Anyway, since I've shown that Sub-Zero Zane can handle true takedown mode, I want to go over a few other weapons that are good for general mobbing. The Soul Render is a great weapon for Zane, especially when the Skull Orbs spawn and deal splash damage. This will deal chunks of damage and get consistent freezes. Next 2 Mag's Radiation will handle shields, and you're good to go from there. The Smog is great. You'll be getting amp damage from Zane's barrier, and since the barrier is protecting the weapon shield, you'll constantly get the amp damage from that, so double your amp damage. The Chaosin works fairly well. I've been using Next 2 Mag's Shock and Next 2 Mag's Incendiary variants depending on how I'm feeling. The Next 2 Mag's Shock does great against the Valkyrie squad's shields. And the Chaos works surprisingly well, actually. Better than I thought it would, so it's nice to see this thing getting some use. Special mentions go out to the Monarch, the Untitled, the Beacon works pretty well. These are all Cryo versions, by the way, to keep with the elemental themed build. And I'm sure there are a few other awesome Cryo weapons I may have missed, but I just went with what I had, or I could farm up in a timely manner for this video. So if anyone watching this is wondering, give them a try and see what you can do. And with that being said, to all the Borderlands 3 fans out there, good luck, Godspeed, and I wish everyone a good day.